I think that we'll probably find a lot of the audience has had a similar experience where they have allowed their career to kind of drive them to the brink of sacrificing their health. So I'd love to just like start off by framing, taking us back to your life before the health scare, kind of what did success look like for you at that time and what were you willing to sacrifice to achieve it?
Yeah, thank you. I agree. I think there are, unfortunately, with the modern pace and the way that we really reward hustle and outcomes in our society, certainly my story is not unique, and some of your listeners may hear or see themselves in what I experienced. But you nailed it. I think, as an ambitious woman growing up in an era where we were told, you can do anything, you can have it all, you can be it all,
Yes,
work hard, and success is yours for the taking, right? I
right.
really internalized those messages, right? And so I hustled and worked my entire life, and I'm proud of that work ethic, right? I've
Yeah,
taken great pride in investing in my growth personally, professionally, helping to lift others along the way.
yeah.
But I also was willing to sacrifice my own well-being, and at times my sense of self to get there, right? Thinking
Mm,
this is the cost, right? This is the price of entry,
right.
or this is a short period of time. I'm going to really buckle down and prove it, and I'm going to get that promotion, or I'm going to work really hard to deliver this outcome, this meeting, land this new client, and then I'll rest. But the
Yes,
problem is that I spent 20 years in that motion, right? Through corporate. And if I'm
right,
being really honest, had a lifetime before that where it was all about reaching that next milestone, working really
right.
hard to get into a great college, being at the top of my class through my college career, right? And so that pace can serve you, and you can kind of sustain it for a while, right? I mean, I certainly
Yes.
did my entire life until I had that health scare, and I can share more about that. But the challenge is that not only the unrelenting demands, the always on society that we find
Yeah.
ourselves in now, right? Constant notifications, 24-hour news
Oh my
cycle,
gosh.
right?
Mm-hmm.
There's macro stressors, there's workplace, and then there's the personal, like our family
Yeah.
obligations, our community. There's just always things going on, right? For me, I think the additional layer of pressure that really, really started to break down my ability to cope with the pace, right? And I also want to say it is absolutely not your fault. If you're listening to this and you feel
Right.
like, oh my gosh, I'm struggling, like, why can't I keep up? I just want to also caveat right now at the beginning of this episode that we're in a system where it is incredibly hard to rest, to recover,
Yes.
and to find a pace that is sustainable. So we'll talk much, much more about that. But I
Yes.
wanted to just go on record of saying, like, it's not I don't have all the right systems and I'm not resting well. It's sort of part of the paradigm we're in. But with that said, I personally had to take a really hard look at what I deem success, and
Mm-hmm.
the and quite frankly, this is a vulnerable share, but how I was seeking not only the next title, the next accolade, but that external validation, right?
Right.
And so when I thought about and had this health scare that I'll share, not only the way I was working, the system I was in, but a lot of that self-worth stuff that I was
Mm-hmm.
seeking from external sources, that sort of recipe of all of those pressures,
Yeah.
was the thing that really, unfortunately, led to my severe burnout.
And I love that one, that you took this back to the pre-corporate America, because we talk a lot about this with corporate America, but we don't always acknowledge that those of us these patterns and these systems don't start in the workforce. This was when I look back to like my behavior in high school and the amount of work I was carrying,
Mhm.
absolutely obscene. But like those patterns start early. And I love that you also pointed to that was, part of your sense of self, so that we are not talking about personal failings, that we're talking about systemic issues, and that it goes deeper into our psyches. It's not just a I can do better. And also hitting on that very convincing really lie that we tell ourselves this is temporary. It's just this one final push to get to this one
Yes.
final thing, but there's always going to be something else that's driving us. And if we're willing to continue to make those sacrifices, oftentimes we don't stop until something makes us stop.
Absolutely. And I think that we convince ourselves not only is it temporary, but that we will be able to slow down. We will be able
Mm,
to rest and really lean into those periods of recovery.
yes.
When, quite frankly, I'll speak for myself, I never really learned what that looked like
No.
and how to downshift and how to have restorative
Yes.
recovery as part of my overall sustainable ways of living, of working, of
Right.
being. And so it is, unfortunately, it's very insidious because we hit that
Hmm.
milestone, we get that promotion, and then we not only feel like, oh my gosh, now I have so much more to prove, but we
Right.
also don't quite know how to downshift. And so that's
No.
been a really important part of the work.
Yes, and we're definitely going to have to talk more about that because I found that as leadership, and I've never had a leadership course that taught me to teach my team how to engage in restorative behavior. And so I've been kind of having to do a DIY when I notice that people are on the brink of burnout, figuring out how do we step in, how do we intervene so that we can prevent this person from going down this path when no one has been taught how to restore themselves. That's an amazing point. So even with the best intentions, if we don't know how to do it, it's not as simple as just saying, I'll slow down, and then, magically we slow down.
No, unfortunately, it's not a light switch, right? We can't just
Not
turn
at
it on and
all.
off. And so, absolutely. And I love that you're DIYing it. That's incredible because we're not taught. We are just simply not taught.